Hey history students, and welcome back to another history lesson. Today we're going to be working on an era comparison chart together, but before we get in there, I'm so excited to share with you what I've been working on lately, and that would be my new music history workbook. This is chock filled with worksheets for you to work on with your students, lesson planning, lots of great ideas to dig into some famous composers' lives and some of the works that they've completed. So I just thought we would kind of look through this together and then we'll get right into your lesson today. So first thing I want to show you is just sort of inside the book. One of the things I did was just make this crazy colorful. I wanted students to be excited to sit down and actually work on some of these. I wanted it to be really engaging. And I might have had an ulterior motive as I was completing the color scheme for this as well. I did color coordinate everything through this, because that's sort of how my brain works and how I've found success with the memorization part of this. So anything that's connected to the Baroque era is going to be in this sort of orangey color. Anything connected to classical is going to be in this blue color. Anything romantic is going to be in this purple lilac color. And anything connected to your modern era is going to be in your green color. So if you see that color throughout, take the hint, it's probably connected to that era. I did that on purpose. There are certain things in this book that you're going to find with every single composer. I have chosen composers to sort of coincide with the RCM 9 curriculum. If you're a teacher and you're looking for another composer but you like the worksheet, pop me a message. I'll see what I can do in terms of getting you the composer that you're looking for. So inside you're going to find, for every composer, a get to know you worksheet. This is going to allow you to place everything connected with that composer in one spot. If you're using this to work on exam prep for your RCM 9 history, you will not need to know all of the details on every single composer for their life. Make sure you're checking your syllabus for that information. You're also going to find a genre worksheet. So whatever genre is closely connected to this composer, you're going to have a worksheet for that. So for Vivaldi, we have the concerto here because we're working on the solo concerto connected with spring. You're also going to find an associations worksheet. So this is going to ask you questions about the people and places closely associated with that composer. And finally, you're going to find a required listening worksheet. I did title it required listening because that coincides with the terminology we have to use for the RCM exams. But if you're using this for a general lesson plan, whatever piece you're studying that day, that's your required listening. So it's very usable for all situations. Some composers are going to have some additional worksheets as well. So for example, here with Vivaldi, we're seeing a comic strip worksheet where you get to create a comic strip or storyboard based on the poetic images found in spring. Some of your composers are going to have things like timelines. So here we see one with Bach. This is going to allow you just to kind of visualize the story of this composer's life and get to know some of the dates associated with him. Some composers are also going to have things related to the text. So here with Messiah, we can see a reading notes worksheet so you can dig into what the words are meaning and talking about. And I know for Schubert, there's an analyze the poem worksheet as well. And then if there's a form closely associated with that era or composer, you're going to see something connected to that as well. So here with the classical era, sonata is sort of a big deal. So I made sure to include a couple worksheets related to that. If you're working on your harmony exams, you might find these helpful for that too. Baroque will also include a fugue one. And then towards the end of the book, you're going to see an all eras overview. So what this is going to do is just help you see big picture stuff. For example, we have that ever popular chart we did together in a previous lesson. That's included here. If you're wondering how I use that, I'll link the video for you to check out that lesson. There's the chart that we're going to be doing together today, the eras comparison chart. Both of these charts are very customizable. I'm showing you how I use them, but you could really use them in any way that suits you. You might even want to photocopy this and use it twice or 3 times, different ways each time. And then we have a few other little bits here. We've got some form worksheets. We've got some texture worksheets to help you understand what texture means and the pieces connected to those specific types of texture. I also wanted to make sure that I included an essay question. I know a lot of my students kind of struggle with that or get nervous about completing the short answer question, so I wanted to make sure there was a little bit of prep for that. And then towards the end of the book, it's one of my favorite parts here, I've included flashcards for all of your required glossary terms. So I've continued through with the color coding system here. You can see all of the Baroque ones in these different sort of orange tones. Some of your glossary terms are usable or connected to multiple eras, but I've put them in the color connected with the first time it was introduced. Now on these, you're going to see most of them have a clip art as well as some sort of phrase to help give you a hint towards the definition. And then on the back, there's blank spaces here for you to actually go ahead and write your definition. These are designed for you to cut them out. I know that's a little bit painful to cut up a brand new book, but that's how I did this. And if you're really fancy and you want to laminate them, use them again and again. So there's over 120 pages in here filled with worksheets. Lots of good stuff for you to be able to use, whether it's exam prep or you're working just with lesson planning at home or in school or in your private lessons. I hope that you guys will be able to get a lot of use out of something like this. If you're a studio teacher and you're looking for something like a studio PDF license so that you can just download whatever you need whenever you need it for your studio, I'm going to be making that available soon. If that's something you're interested in, go to my website and pop me a message. I'll make sure to get you the information on how to get that. If you're looking for a physical copy, which I love my physical books, feel free to head over to Amazon. I've got the link in the description box. You'll also find a link on my website if you're looking for a copy of this through Amazon. Hope you guys have fun with it. Hope you find use out of it. It is not a replacement for your RCM text. You're gonna need that book to get all the information for this, if that's the reason why you're using this. So just wanted to add that little disclaimer in there. But let's go ahead and get into today's lesson. If you want to hop over to my website, you'll be able to download a free PDF copy of the era comparison chart, and then come on right back and we'll get into it together. Okay, so since this is Paperless Piano, I've uploaded this into a note-taking app on my iPad. My go-to is Flexcil, but there are so many options available, including your sheet music reading app. I've toyed with making a video with some app recommendations, so if you think you might find that helpful, whether it's sheet music apps or note-taking apps or student organization apps, let me know and I'll add that to the list. For the purposes of time, I'm just going to be adding a couple into each box, but feel free to load in as many as you feel are relevant. So we're going to start right at the beginning with Baroque. Some musical features here might include the continuo, idiomatic writing, terrace dynamics, and some key innovations. One would be equal temperament. An example of form during this era would be the ritornello form with spring. And feel free to use the other box however you like. The affections was a very important element within Baroque, so I decided to include that there, but you might want to use this for genres, anything you like as long as you're kind of consistent throughout. Let's head over to the classical era. Some musical features here would include the rocket theme, symmetrical phrases and clear-cut cadences. Some innovations during this time would be cyclical structure. You could also include a lot of the different styles they wrote in, like Stil Galant and Sturm und Drang. For forms, of course, we have the sonata form. We've also got the rondo and sonata rondo forms, the minuet and trio, and then with Beethoven we have the addition of the scherzo and trio. And in other, I decided to include Viennese school as well as absolute music here. Next up we have the Romantic, so I've included exoticism, nationalism, and chromaticism in our musical features here. Some key innovations. I did decide to include the piano here because that was a huge change in that instrument during this time, and we see that with Chopin's composition. You see it a little bit starting to happen with Beethoven, but really with Chopin, for the purposes of the example, the composer examples we have in this book. We also have the Program Symphony with Berlioz. And as we move into forms, we have the strophic and modified strophic forms and through composed. And underneath other, I decided to include the song cycle. Finally, we're going to move into modern. This one's a little hard because there's just so much going on during this era. But for musical features, I've included atonality and polytonality, as well as polyrhythm. There's a lot more you can add here. For key innovations, I've got things like film and technology. We have the musical and we have jazz. Under forms, I've included verse chorus. And underneath other, I've got impressionism, expressionism, symbolism, and minimalism. So many other things you could also add into this box. And there we have it. Again, I have not completed this. I've only added a couple to each box. You probably want to load in quite a few more in here. And then use this to kind of compare each era with each other, see how things progress through time, see how things are similar, how they might be different. And yeah, just use this kind of as an overview of the big picture of what was going on during these 4 eras. That's all I've got for you guys today. I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and we'll see you in the next lesson.